Masters number 2. We're in the, what is this, the round of 8, right? I believe?
Yeah, quarterfinals.
There we go. Of course, there's still several matches to be had today, but we are only casting the quarterfinal matches, and a big thank you for GFINITY for having us for these last couple of days. Spawning here, though, in the top right corner of the map. Just lost that last game. Score tied up now 1-1 in the best of 5. It's Samsung Galaxy Solar.
In the upper left, as the Blue Zerg, it's Mind Sanity's Sacsri.
Now, this is a map that's not as good for mutas. You just don't have a lot of space to work around, and the tops and sides of the bases are pretty tight. So it's pretty hard to get in that harass and get out alive if you mess up or over-dedicate. One thing I do like, though, is while there's the potential for mutas in any map, I just love that these guys have already shown there's some variety in play. ZVZ really can be boring, and it's got some really bad, a very notorious, I guess, reputation because Roach versus Roach is, quite frankly, very dull to watch a lot of the time. But when you got two players like this who can mix it up, go for Ling attacks, maybe do some cool Roach things later on, I like that. That's the type of ZVZ I can really get behind and I could cast a ton of. But when you know you're going to cast a ZVZ that's just like, oh great, it's 5 games of Roaches versus Roaches, harp. Like, that's not that interesting, but these two are good enough to mix it up so far, and I've been pretty thrilled. I was thrilled before we even got into the series, so it's not even like fake hype.
Yeah, it is always interesting to see Muta vs. Muta. It's very uncommon nowadays, and I personally love it as it's usually pretty action-packed. That last game was unfortunately not the best show, as it was, still already made a lot of big mistakes. So.
Yeah.
It wasn't his best show either. I'm sure he's thinking about that, but it is going to be rare, as you said. Cactus Valley. It's not really a great map for Muta versus Muta. Echo was pretty good. It pretty much has the Wait, no. What map were we just on? I don't know why I brought up Echo.
Coda?
Yeah. Echo and Coda just always, for some reason, say in my mind kind of like the same, even though they're totally not.
They're both boring maps.
Whatever, no, they're not.
Well, actually, no, I think about it. Echo's actually, I like Echo, but Coda's
Yeah,
boring.
Echo's very pretty.
Coda's a boring as hell map.
Yeah,
though.
Coda definitely is.
Coda
But
is
anyways.
like the Lurlak crest.
Yeah, it is of Heart of the Swarm, and Lurlak Crest is, of course, the boring map of Exceed the Void. But anyways, Cactus Valley just also, like, we haven't seen many ZVZs. Been blessed with having not too many mirror matchups in the past few weeks, I would say. Definitely run out of PvPs, am I right? But ZVZ on this map, Cactus Valley already giving us a lot of weird games. Hoping to see something cool and weird here too.
Yeah. Actually, I love the dynamic of the natural being the slightly smaller choke. Certainly help out in these defensive holds against ceiling all-ins. But gotta give a big shout out to our man CTBM. I don't know what that stands for. Cool Time Bro Machine, I guess. For a sub to the channel, new sub hype, first new sub. Welcome, sir.
Well, Ling's trying to get a good scout, but messes up a little bit. Probably could have seen the gases if he hadn't dodged back for whatever reason.
So Overlord's just like, I got my eye on you.
Buddy, got my eyes, all 8 of them apparently. Didn't know they had 4 eyes on each side. The more you know.
8 eyes, Overlord has 8 eyes.
Oh, can you imagine Overlord with glasses? It's kind of cute.
You would need like the weirdest glasses set up too, because like it's like a chameleon, right? It's on different sides of the head. It's not even like a flat face with glasses. Okay. Anyways, Ling's managed to get past the queens over here, but there's 2 more on the ramp, and already seeing 4 queens. That's a pretty big like WTF for Solar to scout this. Now it wasn't like, oh my god, still no gases, but still for 4 queens and a spine collar this early, Solar's first intuition is gonna be like, okay, this was probably a gasless opener. And get away with a little bit more like that faster third. And he had already placed this down, so it's not like a reaction, but it is a comfort.
Yeah, it's definitely a great way to put it. Now, they are both going to go up 2 Roaches, and in fact, Sacsri is going to end up investing in a speed. Sometimes you see people just simply, they don't feel like they have to, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. It is 100-100 that could go into, a couple more Roaches that could just barely win the game. But more often than not, the game just kind of goes on for a while, and Ling attacks do have their place no matter what point of the game it is. And I like to see speed on Lings just in general. Makes them more fun. But of course, Sacsri, he might also be planning on going for an all-in. He's not getting up to a lair. He's not actually using the Evo chamber. He banked up a lot of minerals and gas, and there are 12 Roaches. So a Ling Flood will follow this up at a pretty perfect time, actually. And how does Solar really scout this? He can see that there isn't a third yet, and that's a little suspicious. but more so it'd be like, you know, like the Eva Champo isn't wiggly and jiggly like yours is, and of course seeing the actual roaches on the way, but it's horizontal spawns. Those roaches are going to get to your base fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I think, somewhat expected, though, after he realized with a heavy queen opener. So it's not like Solar is slacking on the roaches. He's a little bit behind right now, sure. Ooh, seeing the queens come with the attacks is actually kind of cool. These will be able to transfuse quite a bit, and Solar might not actually be expecting this. Now, his roach count should be fine, but his ling count's not going to be there. So fighting in a choke in the natural, of course, that's his best case scenario, but the third base is wide, exposed, and open. So he kind of has to force a fight here, because if he forces a fight anywhere else, he's not going to have any sort of concave in his favor.
Yeah. Sacsri does start his +1 as well as a third base, so it's not as all-in as it looks. Despite bringing the extra queens, they are just extra. But I don't think he's going to be able to break Solar here. In fact, bringing his own queen to help out. Second queen, too. Yeah, just pushes back. Not actually that big of a deal. I mean, it's certainly a panic moment, but he's doing a good job so far. A lot more lings are on the way. This isn't only going to be able to clear this up, but have an immediate counterattack on the third, potentially.
Which is doing some pretty good damage. I really like the queens coming here from the Sacsri, but despite all of this, it's trading evenly at best. And that's not such a good thing for somebody like Sacsri, who was, not by a lot, but behind. In fact, with the counterattack potential now for Solar, his army supply is much bigger, is much better. He's got that +1 weapon upgrade. The lings, honestly, are probably the best thing going for Sacsri because they can surround the roaches. They're not that numerous. But Solar's got his own lings to try and buffer and keep that from happening.
Yeah. This is exactly what I talked about. Now, Sacsri does a good job just stopping Solar from basically getting to his third. Because if the lings are on the third, all they need is 5 seconds and that thing is torn down and you're really behind in the economy. And in fact, here they go, catching them again. Not as numerous, but it's buying time for him to get 8 roaches, 9 roaches to potentially hold the third.
Big victory in the middle of the map too. That should have been a much more even trade. I'm not sure. Ling dynamics are so stupid, but that was something that went heavily in the favor of Solar. That should have been a bit more of an even trade. And Sacsri, it really sucks. It's a little bit of fodder here and there, sure, but it's going to start adding up over time.
I like that. I mean, Sacsri was, I think, in a dangerous position of maybe losing either the third or a couple of drones getting the main, but he really has bought a lot of time and even things up.
Look at that drone. No, I don't agree at all. Look at the drone count. Sacsri is far from evening it up. He's evened up the army supply, yeah, sure, but that's not going to matter if Solar can still produce when Sacsri's out of cash.
Yeah. That's certainly true. He did get a lair at the same time, but of course, investing into everything that Solar's going to be able to invest into is quite different. This is another all-in, basically. Got a lot more lings on the way.
Speed.
Slow roaches moving across.
Yeah, speed's going to make a big deal for Solar, too, especially when they're on the creep. But the ling counterattack's also a little bit dangerous. The roaches can't entirely ignore this. You start losing the queen, you start losing what little drones you have, and this brings the entire army of Sacsri back home.
Yeah. For Sacsri's lings bought a good amount of time. Solar buys even more important time with that. And now the defense shouldn't be very bad at all. Sacsri was actually up by 10 army supply before that happened, and now will be down about that amount with speed finishing up, so Solar can kind of hit and run before the actual engagement goes down.
Now he's setting up for what looks to be a sort of roach standoff over here while the lings are going to swoop into the third base. So this is a really good move if he can pull this off, but that's a pretty big if. Down his supply in a big way. If he makes one small mistake, sure, you get a good attack with the lings, but then the roaches just topple the other roaches and it's game over. Pulls the drones away from this, not going to lose too many. Roaches are going to start faltering here as he wastes a lot of time on those lings, but that roach count, that defender's advantage from Solar is just way too much to overcome. He realizes it too. GG. Solar will take a 2-1 lead in this best of 5. Not bad.